We're back. Haven't really had much time to make videos, so we're gonna make this one, and this is gonna be about the Accord, the Turbo Accord. Yeah, we got some parts to put on today. Nothing too exciting. It just really needs these parts to be put on, as I will show you. The original rotors are quite fucked, and if anyone knows about these Accords, you know that the rotor is behind the spindle. So you have to take the entire wheel hub out to change the rotors. I'm also going to go ahead and change the wheel bearings and the CV axles. I was going to do inner and outer tie rods because the boots are gone, but the steering rack is leaking and sucking in air, so I can't do that. I need to get a new steering rack first, but I will take care of that eventually. And I'm also fixing up some oil leaks on the turbo drain, and also the oil filter adapter on the back of the motor. Already did that. That's all good. Nothing too exciting with that. And we're also doing an oil change. Good old 1540 Rotella. As for our parts, of course, this car is eBay sponsored. eBay doesn't sell CV axles and wheel hubs that I needed fast enough, so unfortunately we had to go with a more premium product from Rock Auto. So ridiculous. And of course the rear's already got the disc brake conversion and all that's nice and new. Yeah, that's about all I got right now. So I already got the CV axle out and the wheel hub out. I already pressed it off. I just need to go to AutoZone to grab the bearing race remover tool, because of course it got stuck to the other side of the spindle. But these bearings were actually pretty new that I just took off. But why wouldn't I replace them? I already bought new ones. It just makes sense. It takes an extra 5 minutes to pop them off and pop the new ones on. And I've got the best tool available to do it. Sick, by the way. I love that. So safe when I was doing that, you have no idea. So yeah, just gotta go to quick run to AutoZone to grab that race remover, because it is thoroughly on there. I haven't tried to take it off using any other means because I know it's not going to happen. So I'm just going to take this down to the AutoZone and grab me that tool, and I'll be back. Well, we're back after some struggle because the inner race did not want to come off. But I got it off on this side. I got a nice fresh bearing in there, as you can see. And we got the new rotor mounted up. Yeah, just gonna slap it on the car. Already cleaned this nice and neat, and I guess that's it. And I'll just do the same on the other side. Popped in the new CV axles and good to go. We got the rotor on. Our new CV axle is in, looking fresh as a motherfucker. And new wheel hub. Just gotta do the same to the other side, which already got the other CV axle out. This thing, not only was it blown out boot, but she's stankin'. That side's not so bad, but this side, getting ready. And I'm gonna make all the northern folk pretty pissed off on how easy these hubs pop out. Because usually you have to sit here, you have to get different bolts that are longer, put an air hammer on it, or actually smack it. I just loosen the 4 up and just lightly tap it with a hammer and the whole thing falls out. Gotta love Florida cars. Florida cars. Oh, I still gotta put oil in it. Turbo. Yes. Oh my god. Alright. So this, driver's side, I had a similar issue. Not as bad. But the inner race was absolutely connected to the hub. To the spindle, no doubt. I actually had to use a cutoff wheel to slice through the bearing like this, like a spiral. And it actually did crack it all the way across. That's the only mark I got on it. So you know, when I say I know how to use a cutoff wheel on an angle grinder, you bet your ass I know how to use it. This is just on the floor, no clamp, nothing, literally, right over there. I had my, oh, where'd it go? I was using safety, for sure. I like my face. But yeah, okay. Back onto the grind. Just gotta pop the CV axle in, pop the new hub on this, slap the rotor on this, and pop it in the car. And I also found another thing I have to do. Since I did the rear brake conversion, I did not get the brake cables. And I ended up, once I took one side apart, I just cut it. So, yes, there is a brake cable here. Oh, there is a brake cable here, but it's not connected to anything. It's just cut off. So I went to the junkyard and got the nice brake cables for the calipers. And I saved the pins and the little clip. Oh my God, when did I? Never mind. So these will pop right on. We'll be good to go. I saved all the bolts and everything. They should be the same. Control arms. Yeah, okay. Almost empty boxes here. Oh my God. It's been a while. Probably dumping this right halfway through the video of me installing all those new parts I got. But as you can see, this is the Accord with the still brand new brake rotors and pads on there. Didn't even wear off the coating on the pads. But yeah, there's a little something missing in here, as I'm sure you saw on Chris's channel. I've been painting very poorly just to cover up the acid stains. This side not so bad because it was coated in power steering fluid over the years. But yeah, so we got our new motor right here. This is an imported motor from Japan. It is an F23A, which is basically an F23A1. It just has a black wrinkle coated valve cover, that's it. But I swapped over our log manifold. We got our turbo feed ready to go right there. That's about where it was. We don't talk about the back part of that. Got our OBD2A alternator. Got our USDM power steering pump. Got our F22 post mount stud installed because the F23 does not work because it's not threaded all the way down. Got our OBD2A distributor put on. We got our stage 3 knockoff clutch put on. This is a fan switch. We don't need that because the OBD1 ECU controls the fans now, and it'll turn on at 170 degrees. I took the thermostat out, and I cannot tell you guys how clean this motor is inside. It is ridiculous. Like, it looks brand new. For 50,000 miles, I believe it just by looking at that. We also got our H22 Euro R intake manifold 2-wire idle air control valve adapter installed, and I've lengthened the intake air temp sensor wire so that it reaches all the way around, because on the F22 manifold it's about right here. So I had to add about 10 inches of wire, made it a little too long. That's no big deal. Got our ground secured on this side. I gotta wait until I get the transmission on, and then I will bolt everything on over here. Yeah. I checked the timing belts. They were super clean. They still say Honda on them. Water pump says Honda. Like, this motor's never been taken apart. It is kind of ridiculous. So I'm not even going to change it for this ultra power kit, because that's probably going to be worse than leaving what's in there now. I don't expect to get a lot of mileage out of this motor anyways. Got our new oil pan. I got to take this over to our buddy Hutch's Welding so he can weld on a steel 10AN bung on there, because I am not dealing with this bullshit again, which always leaked and is currently loose somewhat. But yeah, this motor had plenty of oil coming off of it, and you guys can really see now how complicated this timing system is. I am going to leave the both of the balance shafts connected up in there. I like the smoothness of it, just because it's an idling nice car. It is going to be on poly inserted mounts, because the only company that makes actual motor mounts that are poly is Hasport. I am changing the valve cover over so we keep this nice blue one that James powder coated for me. And we're also going to be swapping over the compressor housing because that's also powder coated. Very nice, very nice. But yeah, pretty much I've just been over here cleaning up the transmission, which, you know, isn't going to be beautiful, perfect, but it's a lot cleaner than it was. It was basically black, and now you can actually see that it's made out of metal instead of oil. And then the front subframe I got from the junkyard, and I painted it black, mounted the new poly inserted. Like, come on guys, you can't beat the price for what this is, a stock motor mount with a poly insert. I know, super ghetto, super shitty, shouldn't have done it, should have spent the money on the Hasport mounts, but 80 bucks plus 25 for the inserts, $105, all said and done. Got it in a week versus the $350 for the Hasport mounts. Wasn't worth it. Especially this car's not making any serious power. But yeah, there we go. I also wanted to address, I forgot the, since the 2-wire has to mount vertically, the coolant lines that go to it point directly into the TPS sensor, so you need to do something funky. We live in South Florida. It never gets below freezing. I've never had any issues. My Acura CL has had the water outlets disconnected since I put on the 3.7 shod manifold, and it makes no difference at all down here in Florida. At least I don't know what other purpose this serves other than if the idle air control valve just freezes over and gets stuck, the coolant will allow it to free up itself. Maybe someone in the comments can tell me if I'm wrong about that, but I believe that I don't need to hook up the coolant lines to this. I do have the coolant lines hooked up to the fast idle valve down here, which has already been previously adjusted because this is the throttle body off the F22. Yeah, I'm leaving the F23 EGR valve in there because I don't have it connected anyways. It's not operating. So it's basically just a block off, and I don't feel like getting a gasket. VTEC solenoid's the same. All the sensors so far have been the same. I have a separate coolant temp gauge put in there, so I'm leaving this plug in there, which the F23s use the coolant temp sensor and the ECU to use the gauge, where the OBD2A, the F22s used an actual sensor for the gauge. It's a dummy sensor, but that sensor is just going to screw right in here where this fan switch is. Yeah, I think that's about it. This is probably going to have to replace this because of how kinked it is. Kind of threw it in there. As long as oil gets through this, I'm not worried about it. But it is kind of shitty. I definitely have to go to Havoc Speed to get the 10AN fitting for that, so I might pick up a line and make my own. Haven't decided yet. But anyways, I'm expecting this motor and transmission to be back in the car today. What time is it right now? It is, can't tell you guys. I think it's about 2 o'clock, maybe 1:30. And I'm out of here by 7, so it gives me 5 hours to get this motor and transmission buttoned up and in the car. It might be running today. I doubt it because I still don't have any of the cooling system set up, and I still have to get the radiator support welded in anyways. But yeah. Also, since I had the AC in the old car, it was kind of complicated to get the drain line connected up, but the new car, or the new engine, I'm not putting in AC, so I have a direct shot, so I'm just going to do a 90 straight up with a line and go over, just like the old style eBay one is, but I'm probably going to get some nice vibrant fittings and all that fun stuff. You know, spend $100 on the turbo and $100 on the drain line. No big deal. Alright, status update. We have a transmission installed. Starter installed, and I got that wiring harness bracket mounted, you know. Kind of weird because I have an O2 I got an O2 sensor wire that's not being used. I've got a water temp gauge wire that's not being used. I've got a fan switch wire that's not being used. So I'm just tucking all those back in there. Out of sight, out of mind. And then we got the distributor wires hooked up. For the life of me, I can't figure out what this might be. Then we got ignition coil wiring, and this goes to this sensor, but not this time. This, I believe, is for the oil sensor, or the oil pressure sensor that usually goes right here. But I also was not using that on the OBD1 setup, so yeah, no oil pressure. Who needs that? Throw some Rotella in there and call it a day. And then the VTEC solenoid connector is actually mounted in the car because someone previously ghetto rigged it. So it's right there. This is not the prettiest thing in the world. It's just that wire, then it's got some sort of crimp connector there, and then a white wire that goes in through the firewall. Not stoked about that situation. I didn't do that. I hooked up the VTEC though, because that white wire was just in the passenger floor well. But I might fix that when I get this jobby out of the way, but I am still waiting on this paint to dry on this beautiful $40 subframe, radial arm, and support bracket setup. Yes. That rear subframe is definitely bent by about ½ an inch. So here we are. We got this motor mount thing, which if you can see is a little pushed back. I'm not worried about it. But that motor mount back there did not want to line up. I finally got it to line up by wedging this in there. This bolt's fucked. I don't know what's going on with it, other than I had to put extreme amounts of pressure on this mount to get it in. It's probably just cross threading or something really stupid, but it is like locked in, but it's got like an 1/8 inch gap. This one tightened up nice. That bolt's nice and tight, and our 3 bolts here are nice and tight. The only thing I have left to do now is put in the fancy, totally didn't just black spray paint over all the rust front subframe, and hope that that mount lines up, which I assume it's not. One other thing that was nice, on the motor I took out, this bolt broke. On this new motor, this bolt broke. So it looks like we're just gonna have 2 bolts. This is just a torque mount. The main weight of the motor and the trans are on the 2 side mounts. The rear mount's another torque mount, but you know, not too worried about this. Yeah, that's the last step of getting this thing mounted in there. It's in there because engine hoist is not on it, but you know, there she is in all her glory. Well, it's 8:30. I've been here since about noon. I think I did a lot today. I can't really tell. Feels like I did a lot. I'm exhausted, fucking filthy, but we got motor transmission in. We got our shifter linkage hooked up and all that fun stuff, you know, going into gear. We got our wastegate line plumbed. We got this, that's been there. Just got to put the turbo on, but kind of waiting on a little something here to go in. Alternator's hooked up, power steering's kind of hooked up, still got to put the cooler back in, but again, waiting on a little something right here. Got our brake booster connected. We got our throttle cable, which yes, does have slack in it, just a little bit. PCV, of course. And we got our wideband, which, oh, there it is. Did that fall back there? Yep, that's not supposed to be there. There we go, okay. So that's gotta go down in there somewhere. Leave that on top for right now. Ignition coil installed. What else did I do? Hooked up all of our electrical. Oh yeah, we got our VTEC solenoid hooked up down here. We got our water temp gauge connected up right there, which I did not put a thermostat in. I took it out. So this will be reading pretty close. This is going to be the water coming out of the radiator, I believe. So this is going to read low, but the fans will come on at 170 based on the water temp sensor that's connected up in there, the little gray plug right there on my finger. Yep, that's plugged in. Okay, so that about does it. Got our ground hooked up, got our power to our starter. I'm just kind of going over everything, making sure I didn't miss something. We got these 3 grounds hooked up here, whatever these do. Is that one tight? Yep. Actually, I had to get a replacement one of these cables from the junkyard because this one was a little bit spent after the accident. Oh yeah, we got our power steering belt nice and tight, alternator belt nice and tight. Probably a little too tight, actually. Yeah, they'll stretch out their new belts. The only thing that's a shame is, you know, all of the headlight and that crap is just kind of chilling. But motor is all hooked up electrically. Still got to do coolant. Still got to take the oil pan off and get that one bunged weld on. Install our turbo, get our downpipe back on, probably make a new downpipe because that one is, oh my god, so bad. Look at this thing. Look at it. You think that's the worst? Look. Oh, what's that? Oh, Jesus, it just keeps going. And the best part is this is 2.5-inch pipe. That's not a 2.5-inch outlet. It's a 2-inch. I gotta bore that out. This was all stick welded. So, you know, it is what it is. Definitely gotta remake it. This was kind of like thrown together, obviously. So that about wraps it up. I think this is gonna be a nice, longish video. Yeah, the only issues I had was trying to get the motor mounts to all line up, which eventually I did. This motor is so rock solid in here. It is ridiculous. Like, the whole car, because it's wedged in. Like, this motor mount is under a lot of tension. Yikes. That one's under a lot of tension. This one, you can kind of tell that's not very straight. And like I mentioned, this bolt's already broken. I tried to get it out by welding a nut on there like 5 times. Didn't want to stick. Don't have the strong enough welder. Blah, 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 whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. So that's just whatever. So it's just those 2 bolts. That's kind of fucked up. And then this one, again with this bolt back here, not very good. We're just going to leave it how it is. We're going to have a good time. We're going to hit some boost. And hopefully not hit any more trees. Because this was definitely annoying to do. It only took a couple days, so I can't really complain. But there's still some more work to do. Jesus. Forgot to make an outro for this video. Here's a photo of the car immediately after the accident. You can see Alex in the background with a smirk on his face because it was kind of funny when it first happened, but then realizing that he got me a set of coilovers that were supposed to go in the car with that day or the next, and I crashed it like an asshole. So that kind of sucked. So that's going to be coming up. In this photo, you can see the damage to the engine block, which is not really repairable. I guess you could JB weld it like an asshole, but I just decided to replace the whole motor. In this photo, you can see the real damage on the whole car, on how pushed in everything was. Like, you can, I don't know if you can really tell, but you can see the turbo imprint on the condenser through the radiator. Spicy. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. I don't know what you do with these YouTube video stuffs, but yeah, anyways, bye.